Yes, thank you very much. Meanwhile, Joe Biden famously declared
That is a beautiful thing to wake up to. It's
on his own.
going to be another frigid day. I think the high is 72 today. 24th of December is going to be 72. And tomorrow we're going to have Christmas dinner outside. It's going to be 72 or 73 tomorrow. Okay, let's drink our coffee. Here's the view out the back door of my knife shop. This is a very comfortable chair I'm sitting in. Not so comfortable that I find I lose time, but comfortable enough where I can sit in it for quite a while and sand on knives. I want to tell you 3 stories about lawnmowers and people insinuating that I had done something wrong. And then I want to tell you what I look for, some of the clues when I go buy a piece of equipment. Okay, story number 1. I had a friend. I used to work on his equipment all the time. And he brought me his riding lawnmower, and I fixed it. And he brought it home and mowed with it. And then the next day, it wouldn't start. And he called me and he said, "What did you do to my lawnmower? It won't start." I said, "Well, it started up and you drove it on the trailer and you mowed with it yesterday. It can't be anything I did." And he kept telling me I had done something wrong. He wanted to know everything I did to his lawnmower. And I said, "Look, go out and make sure the PTO switch is turned off." And he, said, "Well, stupid. I wouldn't get off my lawnmower and leave the deck engaged, the blades engaged." And he hung up, still kind of mad that I had ruined his lawnmower. And a few days later, I talked to him again. I said, "Did you ever get your lawnmower started?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what was wrong with it?" He goes, "I had the PTO switch out." Okay. I had another lawnmower. It was a Sears Craftsman 2. And it had a high and low speed rear end with either 4 or 5. It might have been 6 gears. I can't remember. But the thing was a tank. And it had an Onan engine. And it just ran and ran and ran. It would cut anything you drove it through. I mean, if you had a bed of nails, it would cut through nails. But the thing is, it was so hard to turn that by the time I mowed 7 acres, my arms were noodles. So I only used it for heavy stuff or pulling a heavy trailer. I mean, it was an awesome tractor. It would do anything you wanted it to. You could hook implements to it. You could put a tiller on it. Anyway, I sold it to a friend of mine because I had 2 other lawnmowers and it was getting kind of crowded in my shed. So I sold it to a friend, and $400. And as soon as it left my driveway, I had seller's remorse. I wished I had just found a place to store it and keep it until I needed it, because there was no other lawnmower that I had that would do the things that Sears Craftsman 2 would do. So a week or 2 goes by, and my friend who bought it, he mows with it, and then he calls me, mad as hell, that the lawnmower won't go into gear. I mean, it won't go anywhere. And I say, "Well, I'll tell you what, bring it back. I'll give you your money back. It was worth saving my friendship over $400. So, he was really mad. And he brought it over to my house, and he comes flying up in my driveway with his lawnmower on his trailer. Really mad. So I give him his $400. I get on the lawnmower. I put the high and low speed. Okay, it had 2 stick shifts, and one of them was around the side of the lawnmower. And if you weren't careful, you could knock it out of high or low and into neutral and not realize you'd done it. So I look down there, and sure enough, the high and low speed is in neutral. So I put that thing in high. I put the stick shift in reverse, and I backed that thing down out of there, and I drove it into my shop. Happy to have it back, and his mouth is dropped. He said, "What did you do?" I said, "I put it in gear." That's all I did was put it in gear. So you was mad as hell at me, thinking I sold you a piece of junk, and you didn't bother seeing that you had it in neutral. Anyway, we were still friends for many years after that, but I was glad to have it back. And then another lawnmower story. This guy in Bossier City had a John Deere, or was it a Cub Cadet? Might have been a Cub Cadet. And it was the kind I like working on, automatic. And he said, it does not run, but I've spent a lot of money on it trying to get it fixed and buying parts for it. Well, that was the ad. And I called him and I said, look, I have a chainsaw. I'll give you a 14-inch Poland chainsaw and $50 for that lawnmower. And he was happy to have it. Drove all the way over there with my trailer, gave him the chainsaw, cranked it up. He cut with it. He was happy with the chainsaw. He was happy to have $50. I pushed that lawnmower up into my trailer, chained it down, got home, pushed it off into my shop, and within about 20 minutes, I had it running. Very simple fix. It was a brake pedal switch that you have to engage the brake pedal in order to start it. Well, the safety switch was not making contact. And that's all I did was I just bypassed the safety switch. I cut it out of there and attached the two wires, cranked it up, and I did a video on it. Well, anyway, me and the guy had got to talking before I left his house, and I told him about my YouTube channel. And he was so bad, he left really ugly comments on that video. And I said, look, dude, you know what? I hate a big crybaby grown man, E6 in the Air Force. And I said, I'll tell you what, I will bring it back to you. You just give me a few dollars for gas, my $50 and the chainsaw back, and I'll give it back to you. And no, he didn't want that. But he didn't want me to fix it that easy. And that was my three stories. Okay, I got one final thing I'm going to tell you about when I go buy a piece of equipment, whether it be a chainsaw, a weed eater, a lawnmower, or even a vehicle. How people talk is important. You can tell a lot about a person if they cuss a lot and if they seem like they're stupid people. Then there's a much bigger chance that they don't take care of their equipment. I mean, everything else in their life is screwed up besides the piece of equipment they're trying to sell. And when you go over and you meet them and you look around and their yard is a mess and their house is a mess and their car or vehicles aren't maintained, you can probably be safe to assume that they don't take care of their lawn equipment either. And little things like that. And then if you talk to them for a little while and they keep repeating things like, I don't know nothing about it, there's something suspicious about somebody that says, I don't know nothing about it, or I'm no mechanic, half a dozen times. And it just happened to me, and I missed the cues. Let me tell you what happened. These chainsaws that I went and bought recently, the guy was in his 80s. And he was in the Marine Corps when he was a young man. He was in Nam. And man, me and that guy, we talked for about 2 hours. And I let my guard down. And I missed the signs that I should have looked for. Or I actually noticed the signs, but I blew them away, blew them off because I was thinking, this guy's in his middle 80s. Those, people our age and older, they didn't do the dirty dealings. They weren't liars and cheats and sell you a piece of equipment they knew damn well wasn't worth what they were asking. Well, anyway, the guy told me they all had compression and they all could turn over. Well, Also, he kept telling me, here's one of the signs that I missed. I'm no mechanic. I don't know nothing about these things. I'm no mechanic. He said that to the point where my brain was picking up on the fact that he was saying this way too much to convince me that he didn't know nothing about him and he was no mechanic. And in me looking around his property, I noticed in his barn he had a parts washer. Well, if you're no mechanic and you don't know nothing about mechanics, what on earth are you doing with a parts washer? So I missed two very important cues. The fact that he repeated it over and over that he was no mechanic and didn't know nothing about no chainsaws. And the second cue was the fact that he had a parts washer for a guy who knows nothing about mechanics. That was a second cue. And what I should have done, and I didn't, was inspect all five of the chainsaws to make sure they did in fact have compression and turned over, and two of them don't. So he screwed me on two of them. The other three I can save, but I'm going to have to spend a little more money than I thought. I let my guard down. I made a mistake. I wouldn't have bought them for that much money. I'd have bought them for, 150, 150, but not 250. Anyway, tomorrow is, let's see, this is Christmas Eve, so tomorrow is what, the 24th, I guess. Anyway, have a Merry Christmas, y'all. That's just some stories I wanted to tell you. I'll see you after Christmas. All right, this is that Damascus that I got the bevels ground on. Now, I'm going to sand these grind lines off. That's going to take me a couple of days at least. But I'm really happy with how this come out. All right, I'm fixing to get started on it. And this is the last blade I'm going to do for a little while because I'm going to go to my garage and I've got a couple of projects that I need to get done out there. And one is the Husqvarna. I need to put the carb on it, get that fixed up and sold. The other is Bev's Leaf lawn sweeper. I need to put a trailer hitch on that. And then I'm going to tinker with that Simplicity just a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole lot yet, but I just want to make sure that it's okay to use for the rest of the winter without damaging it. So I'm going to check the transmission. I'm going to grease the front end. Just little things that will keep it from, it's in good shape, but I don't know anything about it, so I want to make sure it stays in good shape through the winter while my wife mows up leaves. And come spring, I'll get it in there and take it all apart and do a really good job of cleaning it up. And if it's got an oil leak, which it may have because there's a lot of oil under there, and it's not burning any oil, so it's either leaking or somebody spilt a bunch of oil on it numerous times, and that happens. I spill sometimes. All right, let me get to sanding on this and have a Merry Christmas, because it's going to be well after Christmas before I get back in here.